Ethan woke up early that morning. The sun was rising, painting the sky in orange and gold, but his heart felt heavy. His small house at the edge of the forest was always quiet, and the only sound he wanted to hear was missing the happy bark of his dog, Shadow. Shadow was not just a dog to Ethan. After his parents passed away and his friends drifted apart, Shadow became his only family. Every day, the loyal dog followed him to the market, guarded his little cabin, and slept by his bed. Losing him felt like losing a part of his soul. Ethan searched the whole house. He looked under the bed, behind the barn, even inside the chicken coop, but Shadow was nowhere. His food bowl was untouched, his leash still hanging on the wall. The silence felt wrong. Shadow. Ethan called, his voice echoing into the forest. Only the rustling of leaves answered him. He grabbed his coat and hurried outside. The morning air was cold, and the ground was damp from last night's rain. He walked to the path where he usually took Shadow for walks, calling his name again and again. Nothing. His heart pounded faster. By noon, Ethan had searched the village. He asked the baker, the blacksmith, even the children playing near the river. Everyone shook their heads. "No, we haven't seen him," they said. Some offered sympathy, but it didn't ease his fear. The thought of Shadow hurt or trapped somewhere made his stomach twist. Ethan couldn't eat, couldn't rest. He returned to the forest as the day grew darker, determined to keep looking. Hours passed. The woods were filled with strange sounds: owls, insects, the cracking of branches under his feet. Ethan felt tired, but his worry gave him strength. He carried a lantern and whispered Shadow's name softly, as if his dog might suddenly appear from behind a tree. When the lantern's light flickered, he stopped. On the muddy ground near the thick roots of an old oak, something caught his eye. Paw prints. His heart leapt Shadow's tracks. But as he bent closer, his relief turned into confusion. The paw prints glowed faintly, as if touched by light from another world. And next to them were other footprints, small, childlike. Yet no children from the village ever came this deep into the forest, especially not at night. Ethan touched the glowing tracks with his fingers, half expecting the light to vanish. But it stayed, shimmering softly against the earth. His breath grew heavy. Something strange was happening, something he couldn't explain. He followed the glowing trail. Each step pulled him deeper into the forest, further from safety. The night grew colder, and the trees seemed to close in around him. His lantern barely lit the path, but the strange glowing prints guided him forward. Then he heard it, a sound that froze his heart. A bark. Shadow's bark. It came from ahead, mixed with laughter, high playful giggles, the kind only children made. Ethan's chest tightened. Who were these children? Why were they with his dog? And why did the forest feel unnatural, as if it was alive and watching him? He moved quietly, his boots crunching on the fallen leaves. The glowing prints ended near a small clearing. Ethan stopped behind a tree, holding his breath. There, in the middle of the clearing, was Shadow. His tail wagged happily, his tongue hanging out as if nothing was wrong. Relief washed over Ethan, but it didn't last. Because beside his dog were two small figures. They looked like little girls. No older than 10, but they were not normal children. Their skin glowed faintly, like silver light under the moon. Their hair shimmered like threads of starlight, and their large eyes glowed softly, reflecting the lantern light. They wore strange clothing, stitched from a material Ethan had never seen, glowing faintly at the edges. The two girls were playing with Shadow, tossing a glowing crystal back and forth while the dog chased it. They laughed like innocent children, their voices ringing like music through the night. Ethan's hands shook. His mind raced. Who were they? Were they dangerous? Why were they with his dog? Shadow barked again, this time turning his head toward Ethan's hiding place. tail wagging harder, as if calling him. The two girls stopped. Slowly, they turned their glowing eyes toward the trees. Toward Ethan. One of them smiled, tilting her head as if she had known he was there all along. The other whispered softly, her voice echoing in a way no human child's voice ever could. "He sees us." Ethan's breath caught. He froze, unable to move. The lantern flickered again, shadows dancing across the trees. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying. He hadn't just lost his dog. He had stepped into something far greater, something not of this world. Ethan stood frozen behind the tree. His heart hammered in his chest, louder than the crickets and the wind whispering through the leaves. Two little girls stood in the clearing with Shadow, but they were not normal girls. Their silver skin glowed like moonlight, and their eyes sparkled like stars. Shadow barked happily, running in circles as if nothing was strange. He wagged his tail and licked one girl's hand, and she laughed with a sound so pure, so sweet that Ethan's fear almost melted. Almost, he pressed his back to the tree, gripping the lantern tightly. His breath was shallow. "What am I looking at?" he thought. Children, spirits, aliens. The glowing footprints had led him here. And now he wished they hadn't. The taller girl pointed toward Ethan's hiding place. "He sees us," she whispered again. Ethan's pulse quickened. He thought of running. He thought of leaving Shadow behind and forgetting he had ever seen this. But Shadow barked and ran toward him, tail wagging hard as if trying to drag him into the clearing. The two girls giggled. Their laughter was not mocking. It was soft, playful, almost innocent. Slowly, they stepped forward, holding the glowing crystal they had been tossing to Shadow. Their bare feet pressed into the mud, leaving behind more glowing footprints. Ethan's throat went dry. He stepped back, and a branch cracked under his boot. The girls stopped. One tilted her head, studying him. The other smiled, wide and warm, like a child meeting a new friend. "You are?" "Human," the taller one said slowly, her voice broken but clear. The words carried a strange echo, as though they had learned his language only recently. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came. He could barely breathe. Shadow ran straight to him, barking joyfully, brushing against his legs. Ethan knelt and clutched his dog, relief flooding his chest. "Shadow. Oh boy, I thought I lost you." His hands trembled as he hugged the dog tightly. When he looked up, the two girls stood only a few steps away. Up close, their features were even stranger. Their eyes were too large, their pupils glowing with faint blue light. Their hair shimmered like silk threads woven from pure starlight. Their skin was smooth, glowing faintly as though it carried light from within. Ethan whispered, "Who? Who are you?" The smaller girl's smile faded. She touched her chest, then the taller girl's, and then looked up at the sky. "Lost," she said softly. "We are lost." The taller one nodded. "Mother?" "Gone ship." Broken. The words struck Ethan like a hammer. He didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear: they were not from this world. He swallowed hard, fear mixing with curiosity. "Ship," he repeated. The taller girl pointed upward, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars. From there, Ethan's stomach turned. Aliens. Two alien children standing before him, playing with his dog as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The smaller girl held out the glowing crystal. "Dog, safe friend." Ethan stared at the crystal, its soft light pulsing like a heartbeat. It hummed faintly, filling the air with energy. His instincts screamed not to touch it, but his curiosity overpowered his fear. Slowly, he reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the crystal, a jolt of warmth rushed through him. Images flashed in his mind stars, a broken ship burning in the atmosphere, two children crying in the darkness. His breath caught, and he pulled his hand away, dropping the lantern. The girls gasped softly. "You see?" the taller one whispered. "You know now." Ethan staggered back, his mind spinning. His dog barked again, tail wagging, as if trying to tell him these strange children were not dangerous. But Ethan wasn't so sure. The night air shifted. A low, distant sound rolled through the forest, like thunder, but deeper. The trees trembled, and the ground seemed to hum. The girls froze, their glowing eyes wide with fear. Ethan's heart sank. "What is that?" he asked. The smaller girl grabbed her sister's hand. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Hunters." Ethan's blood turned cold. The word carried weight, fear, danger. Whoever or whatever the hunters were. The girls were terrified of them. The taller one stepped closer to him, her voice urgent. "Please, help. Hide us." Ethan blinked, lost in shock. He was a simple man, a villager with nothing but his dog and his little house by the woods. Now 2 alien children were begging for his help, whispering about hunters chasing them. The deep rumble grew louder, closer, shaking the ground beneath his boots. Shadow whimpered, pressing against Ethan's leg. Ethan looked at the 2 girls, their glowing eyes filled with fear and innocence. He had a choice: walk away and pretend he never saw them, or help them and risk facing whatever hunted them. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He looked down at Shadow, then back at the girls. I'll help you," he whispered, surprising even himself. The taller girl's eyes softened, a small glow of hope flickering in them. "Thank you." Human. But before Ethan could move, a shadow swept across the clearing. A dark, towering shape shifted between the trees. The sound of heavy breathing echoed through the night. The hunters had arrived. The forest grew darker as the shadow of something huge moved between the trees. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He clutched Shadow's collar tightly, pulling his dog close, while his eyes darted toward the 2 glowing girls. They looked terrified. The smaller one squeezed her sister's hand so tightly her silver skin shimmered brighter. Their glow flickered like a dying lantern, as if their fear was draining their light. The rumble of footsteps grew nearer, heavy, slow, intentional. Whoever the hunters were, they were close. Ethan swallowed hard. He had promised to help the girls, but his mind was spinning. What can I even do? He was just a man with no weapons, no training, nothing but his courage. The taller girl stepped forward, her eyes locked on Ethan. "Please, hide us, hunters. Smell us." Ethan didn't understand fully, but her tone was enough. Without wasting time, he pointed toward a fallen tree nearby. The trunk was hollow, split open with space inside. "In there quick," he hissed. The girls obeyed instantly, crawling inside the hollow log. Their small, glowing figures curling together like frightened fireflies. Shadow wind but stayed quiet when Ethan pressed a finger to his snout. Ethan crouched low, holding his lantern close. His eyes searched the tree line, and then he saw it. A figure dotted stepped into the clearing, towering and monstrous. Its armor glistened like black stone, rough and jagged, with sharp edges that caught the dim moonlight. Its head was covered by a helmet shaped like a skull with glowing red slits where the eyes should be. The creature carried a long staff tipped with something that hissed faintly, glowing like burning coal. Ethan's stomach twisted. He forced himself to stay calm, but every instinct screamed at him to run. The hunter stopped, sniffing the air. Its movements were slow, deliberate, almost animal-like. It lowered its head to the ground and touched the glowing footprints the girls had left behind. The hunter growled, a low, guttural sound that rattled Ethan's chest. The girls inside the log trembled. Ethan could see the faint glow of their eyes through the crack, wide with fear. The taller girl pressed her hands over her sister's mouth, trying to keep her from crying out. Shadow gave a low growl, his fur bristling. Ethan quickly wrapped his arms around the dog, whispering into his ear, "She. Not now, boy. Please." The hunter straightened, turning its head slowly. The glowing red eyes swept across the clearing and landed on Ethan. Ethan froze. His lantern flickered, casting trembling shadows around him. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. Then the hunter stepped closer. Every muscle in Ethan's body tensed. He forced himself to stay still, though fear raced through his veins like fire. The creature loomed taller as it approached, its staff humming with energy. Ethan's hands shook, but he held Shadow firmly. The hunter stopped only a few feet away. It tilted its head, studying him. Then it spoke, a voice deep and broken, words half recognizable, human. Ethan's mouth went dry. He didn't know whether to answer or stay silent. Finally, his voice cracked out, trembling. "Why, yes. Human." The hunter growled again, stepping closer. "Not prey. Not target. Move." It gestured its staff toward the forest, as if commanding Ethan to leave. Ethan's heart pounded. He could walk away now. The hunter didn't see the girls. He could leave, take Shadow, and forget. No one would blame him, but his gaze drifted toward the hollow log. He could still see the faint glow of the little girl's eyes peeking through, filled with terror. They trusted him. He had promised to help them. Ethan straightened, forcing strength into his voice. "No." The hunter's head tilted sharply. The red slits glowed brighter. "No," it repeated, voice rising with anger. Ethan tightened his grip on the lantern. His legs shook, but he stood his ground. "There's nothing here for you," he said, forcing the words out. "Leave." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then the hunter let out a laugh, low, cruel, echoing through the trees. It raised its staff, the tip crackling with red sparks. The girls inside the log whimpered. Shadow barked furiously, lunging forward. Ethan held him back, sweat dripping down his face. The hunter was about to strike when suddenly the taller alien girl crawled out of the log. Her glowing skin shimmered brighter, her eyes fierce. "Stop," she cried. The hunter froze. Its staff lowered slightly. It let out a hiss, almost like recognition. The girl stood tall, even though her small body shook. "We are not yours," she said in broken English. "We are free." The hunter growled, stepping forward again. But the smaller girl crawled out too, clutching the glowing crystal. She held it high, and the clearing filled with light so bright Ethan had to shield his eyes. The hunter staggered back, roaring. The crystal's glow burned like fire against its armor, forcing it to retreat into the trees. Its growl faded, but Ethan knew this wasn't over. The clearing fell silent once more. The glow dimmed. The girls collapsed to their knees, breathing hard. Ethan rushed forward, kneeling beside them. "What was that thing?" he asked. The taller girl shook her head, tears brimming in her glowing eyes. "Hunter. They take us, always, never stop." The smaller one clutched the crystal tight, her voice trembling. "They come again." Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't know what these creatures wanted or why they hunted the girls. But he knew one thing: he couldn't leave them. Not now. He looked at Shadow, then back at the girls. "Then I'll protect you," he said firmly, surprising even himself. "We'll face them together." The girls stared at him, their glowing eyes wide with surprise. For the first time, a small smile returned to their faces. But before Ethan could take another breath, the ground shook again. More footsteps echoed in the distance. Not one hunter this time. Many? The night had only just begun. The forest was alive with sound. The hunter's heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. More than one this time, moving slowly but steadily toward the clearing. Ethan's breath came fast, his chest tight with fear. He glanced at the two glowing girls, their silver skin trembling with faint light. They were exhausted, their eyes wide with terror. Shadow barked once, sharp and loud. Ethan quickly hushed him, kneeling low. His hands shook as he whispered, "We need to move, now." The taller girl nodded, clutching her sister's hand. "Safe place?" she asked, her voice small and broken. Ethan thought fast. His cabin wasn't far, just past the river bend. It was small, hidden by thick trees. If they could reach it before the hunters surrounded them, maybe they had a chance. "Follow me," Ethan said firmly. "Stay close. Stay quiet." He led them through the trees, moving quickly but carefully, avoiding dry branches that would snap underfoot. The girls' glowing skin dimmed as they tried to hide their light, but faint traces still shimmered with every step. Ethan kept glancing back, his heart racing. Each time he looked, he expected to see the hunters emerging from the shadows. The girls whispered softly in a language Ethan didn't understand, their words musical and strange. But when the smaller one stumbled, Ethan reached back and caught her hand. Her skin was warm, almost buzzing with energy. And for a moment, he felt a strange pulse run through him, like the beat of another heart inside his chest. The girl looked up at him, her glowing eyes full of innocence. "Thank you, human," she whispered. Ethan nodded quickly. "Keep moving." At last, the cabin came into sight, its wooden frame barely visible in the moonlight. Relief flooded Ethan's chest, but it didn't last. Behind them, the low growl of hunters rolled through the forest, closer now. The sound made the girls stop in their tracks, trembling. "Go inside," Ethan urged, pushing the cabin door open. "Quick." The girls darted in with Shadow at their heels. Ethan followed, slamming the door shut and bolting it. He set his lantern on the table, its dim glow lighting the small room. The girls huddled together, clutching the glowing crystal between them. Ethan leaned against the door, his chest heaving. "What are they?" "Those hunters," he finally asked. The taller girl raised her glowing eyes to him. "They take children from stars." Ethan froze. "They hunt children." She nodded slowly. "We ran, ship broke. Mother lost." The smaller one's lip trembled. "They find us." Soon, Ethan's mind spun. He had stumbled into something far bigger than himself. Aliens, hunters, a broken ship. And now, two children alone, scared and hunted, were sitting in his cabin. He rubbed his hands over his face. "Why me?" he muttered under his breath. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who loved his dog. But looking at the girls, their glowing eyes full of fear, he knew he couldn't turn away. He crouched down in front of them. "Listen, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but you're safe here, with me. I won't let them take you." The taller girl studied his face. Her eyes softened. "You protect us?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Then, slowly, the smaller girl reached out. She touched Ethan's hand with her glowing fingers. A warmth spread through him again, but stronger this time. His vision blurred for an instant, and images flashed in his mind. He saw stars stretching across an endless black sky. He saw a silver ship, elegant and bright, soaring through the void. Then he saw fire hunters tearing through the vessel, children screaming, and the girl's mother fighting desperately before being torn away. Ethan gasped, pulling back. His body shook. "What? What was that?" The taller girl's voice was soft. "Memory, you see us." Ethan swallowed hard. Now he understood their pain, their fear. They weren't just strange beings, they were children ripped from their world. Stranded here, hunted by monsters. He stood and looked out the small window. The forest outside was dark, but shadows shifted among the trees. Red glows blinked faintly in the distance, the hunter's eyes searching. They were getting closer. Ethan turned back to the girls. "They're coming. We need a plan." The taller one shook her head. "You cannot fight them. Too strong." Ethan clenched his fists. "Maybe, but I won't let them walk in here and take you." He grabbed an old hunting rifle from above the fireplace, checking the chamber. It wasn't much, but it was something. Shadow barked once, as if agreeing with his master's decision. The girls stared at the rifle with wide eyes. The smaller one whispered, "Danger." Ethan gave a small, grim smile. "Yeah, but better them than you." Before anyone could speak again, a heavy thud rattled the cabin door. Dust fell from the rafters. The girls gasped, clutching the crystal tight. Another thud. The wood creaked. The hunters had found them. Ethan raised the rifle, sweat dripping from his brow. His heart pounded like a drum, but his eyes were steady. He looked back at the girls one last time. "Stay behind me, no matter what." The smaller one's eyes glowed brighter. She whispered something in her strange language. A word Ethan didn't know, but it sounded like a prayer. The door shook again, harder this time. The cabin walls trembled, and Ethan knew the first real fight was about to begin. Asterisk. The cabin door shuddered under another heavy blow. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the wooden frame groaned as if it could break at any moment. Ethan's grip on the rifle tightened until his knuckles turned white. Shadow barked furiously, teeth bared. Standing ready at his master's side, the two alien girls huddled together in the corner, clutching the glowing crystal between them. Their light flickered with fear, making the shadows on the cabin walls dance wildly. Thud, crack, along. Jagged claws suddenly pierced through the door, dragging down and splintering the wood. The sound tore through the silence like a scream. Ethan's heart jumped, but he raised the rifle, steadying his breath. "Stay behind me," he repeated firmly, glancing at the girls. The taller girl nodded, her silver eyes wide but determined. The smaller one pressed her forehead against the crystal, whispering in her strange language, her words trembling like a desperate prayer. Another slam. The door burst inward with a deafening crash. The hunters had arrived. 3 of them stood in the doorway. They were taller than any man Ethan had ever seen, armored in black plates that seemed fused to their bodies. Their glowing red eyes scanned the cabin like burning coals in the night. Each carried a weapon, long staffs tipped with crackling energy that hissed and sparked. The lead hunter stepped forward, ducking under the frame. Its presence filled the room, sucking the air from Ethan's lungs. The hunter's voice rumbled like thunder. "Children, return." The girls whimpered. Ethan stepped forward, rifle raised. "No," he said, his voice low but steady. "They're not going anywhere." The hunter tilted its head, as if amused. Then it moved, fast, too fast. Ethan fired. The gunshot thundered through the cabin, the recoil slamming into his shoulder. The bullet struck the hunter's chest, sparks flying, but the armor absorbed most of the impact. The creature staggered only slightly before letting out a guttural growl. "Human," it hissed. Weak Shadow lunged forward, snapping at the hunter's leg. The beast kicked him away, sending the dog crashing against the wall with a yelp. "Shadow!" Ethan shouted, panic flaring. But Shadow, loyal and fierce, scrambled back to his feet. Still growling, the hunters advanced, their staffs glowing brighter. Ethan fired again, aiming for the head this time. The bullet struck the helmet, cracking it slightly. And the lead hunter roared in rage. The smaller girl suddenly raised the crystal high. It pulsed with blinding light, filling the cabin like a second sun. The hunters staggered back, shielding their faces. The taller girl shouted, "Now!" Ethan didn't think. He grabbed a burning log from the fireplace and hurled it at the nearest hunter. Flames licked its armor, forcing it to stumble. Shadow attacked again, biting at its leg, refusing to let go this time. The lead hunter roared, swinging its staff down. Ethan rolled aside just in time, the weapon slamming into the wooden floor with a flash of red energy that scorched the boards. The cabin shook, smoke rising. "Out! We must leave." The taller girl cried. Ethan fired one last shot to push the hunters back, then grabbed both girls' hands. "Move," he shouted. Shadow followed, limping but determined. They burst out the back door into the cold night air. The forest was alive with Shadow's more hunters moving among the trees, their red eyes glowing in the dark. Ethan's lungs burned as he ran, pulling the girls with him. The crystal in the smaller one's hands pulsed, guiding them like a beacon through the chaos. Behind them, the cabin collapsed under the hunter's rage, flames and smoke filling the sky. The taller girl stumbled, but Ethan scooped her up without slowing. "Hold on," he yelled, his legs pounding against the earth. The hunters were close, their heavy footsteps crashing through the undergrowth. One hurled its staff, and it sliced through the air, striking a tree ahead. The trunk exploded in sparks, crashing to the ground and blocking their path. Ethan didn't stop. He swerved, pushing through the brush. Branches tore at his face and arms, but he kept moving. The girls clung to him, their glowing skin lighting the way. Shadow ran at his side, barking even as his body shook with exhaustion. Finally, they reached the river. The moonlight shimmered on the rushing water, wild and untamed. Ethan stopped, his chest heaving, eyes darting. They couldn't cross it as Liet was too fast. Too deep, the hunters emerged behind them, fanning out, red eyes blazing like fire in the dark. Trapped, the girls clutched the crystal tightly, their eyes wide with fear. "They catch us," the smaller one whispered, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. Ethan raised the rifle again, though only one bullet remained. His arms shook, but his eyes burned with determination. "Not while I'm alive," he said. The hunters advanced slowly, savoring the moment. The lead one raised its staff, pointing it directly at the girls, and then the crystal in the smaller girl's hands pulsed violently, brighter than ever before. The light spread across the river, turning the water into a glowing path. The taller girl gasped. "Bridge, safe." Ethan stared at the shining water. It was impossible. Unreal, but this whole night was impossible. He looked at the hunters closing in, then at the glowing path across the river. He didn't hesitate. "Run," he shouted. The girls darted onto the glowing water, their bare feet leaving ripples of light. Ethan followed, carrying the rifle, his boots pounding against the strange, shimmering path. Shadow leaped after him, his paws glowing as they touched the river behind them. The hunters roared with fury. Their heavy bodies stepped onto the water, but the glow rejected them. The river churned, swallowing them with violent waves. The girls cried out, pulling Ethan forward. "Hurry!" They reached the far side, collapsing onto the grass. Ethan turned back, watching as the hunters struggled in the water, their red eyes fading beneath the glowing waves. Silence returned, broken only by the rushing river. Ethan fell to his knees, his chest heaving. Shadow collapsed beside him, licking his hand weakly. The taller girl placed a glowing hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You save us," she whispered softly. But Ethan shook his head, staring at the water. "No," he said, voice heavy. "This isn't over. They'll be back." The smaller girl clutched the crystal tighter, her eyes full of fear. "Yes," she said softly. "More will come." Ethan looked at the two children, then at the dark forest beyond. His jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready." The forest was quiet after the river swallowed the hunters. Ethan's chest rose and fell heavily, sweat dripping from his brow. He sat on the wet grass with Shadow by his side. The two glowing girls curled together, their silver light flickering weakly. But Ethan knew it was not over. His gut told him more hunters would come. These creatures were not the type to give up. They were trackers, merciless and patient. The taller girl lifted her head. Her glowing eyes searched Ethan's face. "You fight for us," she whispered, voice soft but filled with wonder. Ethan gave a tired smile. "I don't know about fighting. I'm just trying to keep you alive." The smaller one clutched the crystal, hugging it to her chest. "They come again," she whispered. "Always come." Ethan looked out into the forest, the trees swaying gently in the night breeze. His cabin was gone, burned and broken. There was no safety in running anymore. If the hunters would never stop, then he couldn't just run. He had to make a stand. He rose to his feet slowly. "If they're coming again, then we'll face them here. No more running." The taller girl frowned. "You cannot fight them. Too strong." Ethan knelt in front of the girls, his voice steady. "Listen, I may not have armor or weapons like they do, but I know this land. These woods, this river, the hills, they're my home. If we use that, maybe we have a chance." The taller girl blinked, confusion in her glowing eyes. "Home, yes," Ethan said firmly. "My home, and I won't let anyone take what's mine." Shadow barked once, tail wagging weakly as if agreeing. Ethan scanned the forest and began to plan. He had no time to waste. He searched for thick branches, stones, and vines, setting small traps near the riverbank. He sharpened wooden stakes with his hunting knife and buried them under leaves. His hands worked quickly. Guided by instinct and years of surviving in the wild, the girls watched silently, clutching each other for comfort. The smaller one finally whispered, "Why you help us? We are not your kind." Ethan paused. He looked at them, their glowing faces fragile and innocent. "Because you're children," he said simply, "and because it's the right thing to do." The girls exchanged a glance. For the first time, their lips curved into small smiles. As the night deepened, the forest trembled again. Heavy footsteps, growls. The hunters had returned. More of them this time. Ethan counted at least 5 glowing red eyes moving through the trees. His heart pounded, but he forced his breathing to stay calm. He motioned to the girls. "Stay low. No matter what happens, don't come out." The taller girl reached out, touching his arm. "Be careful." "Human." Ethan gave a short nod. "I'll do my best." The hunters stepped into the clearing. Their tall, armored bodies loomed in the moonlight, weapons crackling with energy. They spread out slowly, surrounding the area. The lead hunter's voice rumbled like thunder. "Give children. Live." Ethan gripped his rifle tightly, though only one bullet remained. His jaw clenched. Not a chance. The hunters hissed, moving closer. One of them stepped right into the trap. Ethan had buried a rope snare that whipped around its leg and yanked it into the air. The creature roared, flailing upside down while Ethan fired his last bullet into its exposed neck. The shot cracked its armor, spraying sparks. The hunter went limp, dangling from the tree. The others roared in fury and charged. Ethan grabbed a sharpened stake and thrust it forward, jamming it into the chest of the nearest hunter. The wood splintered, but the force knocked the creature back into the river, where glowing currents dragged it under. Shadow leaped at another, biting its arm. The hunter snarled, raising its staff, but Ethan swung a heavy rock into its helmet. The blow rang like a bell, staggering the beast. Shadow tore at its leg until it fell. Ethan's arms ached, his body bruised, but he refused to stop. He moved like a man possessed, using the forest itself as his weapon. He kicked dirt into a hunter's eyes, shoved one into the spikes he had buried, and rolled beneath another's strike. His chest burned, but adrenaline kept him going. The girls huddled together, their eyes wide, watching this human weak compared to the hunters. But fighting with a strength born of desperation and love, at last, only one hunter remained. It was the largest, towering above Ethan, its staff glowing red-hot. It swung with brutal force, shattering trees, sparks flying with each strike. Ethan dodged, barely. His lungs screamed for air, his muscles begging for rest. He stumbled, and the hunter raised its staff for the killing blow. No. The taller girl cried. She stepped forward, holding out her hands. Her silver skin glowed brightly, her light flaring. The smaller girl joined her, lifting the crystal high. Together, they unleashed a wave of energy that rippled through the clearing like a storm. The hunter froze, its armor sparking. Red light flickered in its eyes, then died. With a roar, it collapsed, smoke rising from its shattered body. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping for breath. His body shook with exhaustion, but he forced a smile. "We did it," he whispered. The taller girl ran to him, her glowing hands pressing against his chest. "You are hurt." Ethan winced, feeling warmth spreading through him as her touch healed his wounds. The pain faded, replaced by strange comfort. He looked at her in awe. "What are you?" She smiled softly. "Friend." The smaller one hugged Shadow, who wagged his tail, licking her glowing face. For a moment, the clearing was quiet, safe. But then the taller girl's expression darkened. She looked to the stars above. More come, bigger, stronger. Ethan's heart sank. He had fought harder than ever in his life, and still it wasn't enough. But as he looked at the girls, at their glowing eyes filled with trust, he knew one thing: he wasn't going to give up. He stood, wiping blood and dirt from his face. "Then let them come," he said, his voice firm. "Because this human isn't done yet." The clearing smelled of smoke and iron. The broken bodies of hunters lay scattered among the trees, their red eyes dim, their weapons silent. The forest that once echoed with roars and thunder now fell quiet, broken only by the sound of the river and Ethan's heavy breathing. He stood, tall but weary, leaning on his rifle like a crutch. His arms shook, his legs burned, and every inch of him screamed with pain. Yet his eyes were steady. Shadow lay beside him, tired but alive, his fur marked with dirt and scratches. The two alien girls knelt nearby, their silver glow flickering like dying embers. The smaller one clutched the crystal tightly, her hands trembling. The taller one kept her glowing hands pressed against Ethan's wounds, healing what she could, though her own strength seemed to drain away with every breath. "Enough," Ethan whispered gently, placing his hand on hers. "Save your strength." "I'll manage." The taller girl shook her head stubbornly. "You saved us. We save you." Ethan's chest tightened. He had never known such loyalty from strangers, let alone from children not even of this world. But the peace didn't last. The night sky suddenly lit up with streaks of red light burning trails cutting through the stars. The ground trembled as a deep mechanical hum filled the air. The girls looked up, their glowing eyes wide with fear. "Mother," the smaller one whispered hopefully, but the taller one's face darkened. "No, not mother. More hunters." Ethan's blood turned cold. Dozens of lights fell through the sky like meteors, landing far in the distance with thunderous crashes. Reinforcements. The hunters were not finished. The smaller girl buried her face in Ethan's chest, trembling. "They never stop. Never." Ethan looked at them, his jaw tightening. He could feel their fear like it was his own. He wanted to tell them to keep running, to to hide forever, but deep down, he knew they would always be hunted. Unless something changed, he took a deep breath, steadying his voice. "Then, it's time we stop running." The taller girl frowned. "You cannot fight all." Ethan glanced at the crystal, its soft glow pulsing like a heartbeat in the younger girl's hands. "Maybe I don't have to," he said. The smaller one looked up, eyes wet with silver tears. "Crystal, is life, power. Hunters want it?" Ethan knelt, placing his hand gently over hers. "Then maybe it's also the key to ending this." Before anyone could respond, the forest shook again. A deafening roar split the night as another hunter ship descended, its black hull gleaming like obsidian. It landed heavily in the clearing beyond, trees cracking under its weight. The hunters were here. Ethan rose to his feet, shoulders squared. He looked at the girls, scared, tired, but trusting him completely. He gave a small, reassuring smile. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." The taller girl clutched his sleeve. "Human, you will die." Ethan's smile grew faint, but steady. "Maybe, but if it means you live, it's worth it." The girls stared at him, their glowing eyes wide with shock. No one had ever spoken to them like that before. The hunter ship's doors opened. Dozens of armored figures poured out, red eyes glowing like fire. Their weapons crackled with energy, filling the air with a sinister hum. Ethan lifted his rifle, though it was empty. He gripped it like a spear, his stance unshaken. Shadow stood at his side, teeth bared, ready to fight to the last breath. The hunters advanced slowly, their leader stepping forward, towering and cruel. Its voice thundered through the forest. "Give children, live." Ethan spat into the dirt, eyes blazing. "Over my dead body." The hunters roared, charging forward, but before they reached him, the crystal flared. The smaller girl screamed, holding it high. Light exploded from it, flooding the clearing with blinding brilliance. The hunters staggered, roaring in pain. Their armor cracked, their weapons dissolved. Their red eyes flickered and died. The light expanded, sweeping through the forest like a wave. Hunter after hunter fell, their dark forms crumbling into dust. Even the ship trembled, splitting apart under the force. The air rang with a sound like thunder and song mixed together, shaking the very earth. When the light finally faded, silence fell. The hunters were gone. The ship was gone. Only Ethan, Shadow, and the two alien girls remained in the clearing. Ethan dropped to his knees, stunned. What just happened? The taller girl helped her sister lower the crystal, now dim and cracked. Her voice was soft, almost sad. It listened. Crystal heard heart. Your heart. The smaller one nodded weakly, her glow fading. You saved us. Not just with fight, with spirit. Ethan's throat tightened. He looked at them, his chest heavy with emotions he couldn't name. I didn't save you. We saved each other. The taller girl smiled faintly. Yes, together. Then, above them, the night sky shimmered. A beam of soft silver light descended, and within it appeared a tall, radiant figure woman with the same glowing skin and starlight hair. The girls gasped, crying out in